Good afternoon. This is Ken Long at Tortoise Capital with a daily debriefing from April 28th April 29th, April 29th chat room. I'm going to start off with a quick look at a larger market context at a turning point that we're detecting that we want to make sure informs our directions on the intraday trade and the swing trading, and not just the position trading, because when there's a tidal change, we need to be aware of that. That changes some of the dynamics of what's going on. So this is the S&P on a weekly basis and the RLCO framework. You can see the RL270. You can see the expanding Z pattern here. The Z3s have expanded, although now starting to converge a little bit. And from this like sideways quiet channel, we have this breakout to the downside. So we went from 212 down to 180, back up around 210, down to 180, back up around to 210. Feeling me? And then the first weekly reversal with a lower close than the weekly close, a lower open, a lower high, a lower low, a weak close, touching the dragon. Now the dragon has moved from one side of the river to the other side of the river on the weekly, but now as he's approaching the same price level where there was a hump before, we would not be surprised to see this as a resistance level. So instead of a continuation of a second leg this height, now in the silly season of politics between now and November, especially selling may go away. We'll start hearing a lot of that now. And with the Bollinger Band mean, even though the river is up, the Bollinger Band mean showing something like fair value down here at 201. The RL270 slower to resist here, or the downward pull. So this is an interesting moment. Are we going to find support north of 201? We're going to find it in the dragon on a weekly basis. If what we can say though is that, in retrospect, if this turns out to be something where it goes back and tests 180, we would clearly see this as a turning point. We would say, of course, it's obvious. In the moment, do we know? No, we don't know. But it could be like this moment here where it turned, had a week, and then it bottomed out and then took right back off and earned it all back for 3 or 4 weeks, and everything was good, and then it failed again. And this time when it rolled over and it made a lower low, and it recovered and failed again. But after each failure, it gets worse and worse, and then there was a couple panic runs. So we're taking that into account as we consider that if there were such a thing as easy money, it's over on the upside here. And so now we're more into a tactical trade, trying to preserve gains, trying to find the volatility and trade in the direction of volatility. In price action, and I just think a new regime has occurred. If we now shift to the daily, you see that stretched out a little bit more. We have that last sideways quiet channel, if you will, and the breakout from the compressed C3. This was really the period of time in which the swing trade online workshop was working, and the owl pattern, which you see right here, turned in such a nice performance, like it should when the market does that. I'm not saying it'll always do that after every owl, but when the owl pattern leads to a fully manifested market move, that's the kind of performance you should expect to get. And now what you'll notice is that we have an owl pattern in the opposite direction. In fact, I went short on the owl swing pattern here just because that's what I'm supposed to do when that pattern fires. And what that means for me is I'm aware that I've just kind of treated that as leg one, or the last trend, and now this is the new potential trend. And so I see this as an owl pattern going the other way. So we have the unambiguous move, we have the RLCO outside the river, we have the RL10 crossing the dragon, we have the dragon sloping down, we have the 30 rolling over. That makes this an entry here when it broke Thursday's low with a stop above the hump of the dragon, at which place I would stop and reverse happily, because now it will have rejected the downside, and now I have a thought in place that it could be one of these size legs, like from 200 to or 205 to 211, so a 3 to 4% move. So we're 3 to 4% off the top. That's what this represents. And now what I'm looking for are these kinds of targets to the downside. This little belly of the dragon, if this fails, it's held one time at the low on Friday, but if it falls below, say 205 even, then I think the next targets are 202 and a half, 200, and then about 197, back to the RL 270. So we've got a series of step ladder targets on the way down, which would be hit if this truly is some kind of an owl. Now, to get past the RL 270 would be to eradicate all of these gains. And now what you can see is this kind of yin-yang, down, up, and roll over. So to me, the real necessary support is down here around 197. That would be the completion of the yin-yang pattern, and we would be perfectly balanced at the long-term fair value. And even though that's slightly up, then the question would really be put to it. So any of these targets that are hit and where there's hesitation, I'd be inclined to take that as an opportunity to cash a good trade and be ready for a resumption of the long side, with the idea it would come up and test this 210 area as a target. So that's my read on the daily. I'm short, and that means I have a much tighter time frame, and I'm ready to protect the swing trades with intraday positions. And now on a 2-hourly chart, this is the chart I'm using to manage my entry and the day one technique. This is now 2 hours, and this was Friday's move. It closed weekly, opened lower, and started to sell off immediately short. There were some one-day opportunities to make some bank and to leave 1/5 of the position overnight, and it closed right around the VWAP, so we'll see what happens when we see it. But with 4/5 of the intraday turbo position, I've made the money intraday that I can use to fund the overnight and over the weekend risk. So I'm using markets money on this position here. My next critical target is going to be down here around 204, and we'll see what happens down here. There's a lot of volume transacted down here, so we'll see where we go. If it falls below 204, Katie bar the door, and it's on off to 200, and then this one will pay off big time. So I'm ready for a rebound recovery. I think there will be people who see this as a buy on dip. I also think there will be people ready to pile on the southbound train should this get weak. So that's my market framing insights using the owl. You can see the owl actually occurred back here on the hourly charts, and this makes a beautiful entry, a beautiful argument for the owl with a short entry around 209 3/4 with the stop at Z2, and then picking up the Z, following the Z2, never even tested. By this time, you're well into the green, into the money, and you could be adjusting your stops down here to the PSAR and be very, very happy with that swing trade. It wouldn't have surprised me if you'd done that. If you'd gotten short here and then cashed here, that would have been traditional and typical of us, and then a re-entry here upon weakness as the dragon rolls over. Now you have another owl pattern, and down we go. So lots to choose from on the downside. A lot of reasons to believe the market is in a materially different condition. I'm just going to show this one at a distance. This is Ashay's self-analysis here over the last 3 weeks. He's now, on the basis of evidence, prepared to make some forward testing prototype trades. He's got his reasons and an analysis in here. I will, if you're in the chat room, you can review that in more detail. I will leave it to you to do that and respect his privacy on that. But all his indicators for the rolling 30, 60, 90, and 150 day trades are all facing up. His R multiples are up. He's got a nice smooth histogram with controlled left-hand risk. He's got multiple systems that are all positive expectancy. That's each of their different patterns contribution to his overall gains. And his scatter plot of performance is showing an increased number of the outsized gains more recently as he's been able to reduce some of his execution risk and increases position size and increases our multiples. So looking pretty good there. This is from Charles's trade log. Had an exceptional week, 17.5 hour, and trading mostly the owl pattern and some continuations with very structured scripts, and all the symbols and all the signs are pointing to yes. These are all the expectancies over the different time frames. The 90 trade rolling R expectancy is above 0.2, so that's looking in good shape. I had a nice burst of gains this week, so obviously the 30 trade rolling R is up. But a very structured approach. This is there may be other ways to do it, but this is the way I know how to do it. This is how you develop evidence and confidence in your performance through math and statistics and daily attention to detail. Chopping wood, carrying water each and every day. Well done. This is Gil's. His daily log. He's adopted the same structured approach. Had a nice day on Friday, 4.5 hour. Gil's making the transition from business owner and self-employed vet to full-time retired trader, and so it's very important that we have a basis for rational belief in performance, and so this has been a very good discipline for him. He's making great progress. Proud of that effort. A closer look at some of Charles's work. I'll leave that up. You can stop the tape and look at it, but this is what I consider to be a reasonable approach to performance management. And Charles, I think, I want to say, turn the corner. It wasn't just the 17-hour week that did it, but a clear pattern of improvement in performance over time that brings confidence. This looks like one of Gil's trades. Nicely done. This is the unambiguous move in XIV. It's towards late in the day, and this is Gil's favored VWAP magnet. We have the VWAP, volume weighted average price, up here. There's a temporary decline against it as guys are unwinding their leverage positions, and here's an opportunity to see an owl pattern. So you have the unambiguous move. You have the RLCO outside the river here, that's 2. You have the RL10 crossing the dragon here, that's 3. You have the 30 rolling up, the dragon rolling up, gets a nice entry in the owl pocket here. Might have been a little bit early. Okay, I can live with it if you can, Charles. And he gets his exit just as he's putting on the second position at the VWAP, 2R in hand. Starts to fail, cash because it's so close to the end of the day. Gets a resumption, tries, cashes, and so well done. I like the strategy. That's his pattern, the VWAP magnet, and he can execute this as he needs. Quick look at Ashay's use of our structured goal setting work, where he's got some daily, weekly, monthly goals, and so Ashay is a discretionary rules-based trader, or maybe a rules-based discretionary. Intuition has always been a big part. He's been adding some structured process to refine that sense of self, maybe to calibrate his intuition, and so he's identified 3 goals that he prepares his and reviews his daily trading script, that he's logging his trades in the spreadsheet and posting 5 snapshots, that he's doing his yoga and meditation, and then each of those days he either did it or he didn't, and you can see he's been faithful to his stated goals. He wants to exercise 3 times a week. He did. And now that he's getting comfortable with this more structured approach, I think he's going to start adding some monthly goals. When you get to proficiency on the things that you want to measure, and what was once exceptional now becomes routine, you can use this kind of approach to start adding things that you want to bring under management and supervision starting with the most important things. So this is how you ratchet your performance up, by taking on some bite-sized, manageable goals in reasonable time frames, get to proficiency on them. When you've developed it as a system and as a habit, you can then you can reduce the effort on it because it has become commonplace or part of your habit and routine, less cognitive load on you, and then you can look to add some more. So well done to Ashay on that one. This is a quick look at Charles's homework from coaching. I asked him to do the amazing battle drill, that when we have a surprisingly good performance, there's some danger inherent in there, like there always is, like the country mouse and the city mouse. And I want to make sure that we don't go overboard on the good feelings. Got to have a way to process them. So I asked him to do the amazing battle drill, in which our ultimate goal is to say, how can we process that emotion so that what was once amazing we learn to look at as the new normal, so that we don't think it took luck or exceptional good fortune for that surprising good performance. So here was his reflection. I thought it was well done, so allowed to share it. Reflecting on a good week, especially an 11-hour day in which there were multiple obvious places for huge improvement. That's the one of the reasons why you could feel amazing. Wow, there was an 11-hour day, and it wasn't even exceptionally great performance. I mean, there were a lot of fish jumping into the boat. We managed to hold on to some of them, but there was a lot more we could have gotten. And so that could lead you to say, wow, what an amazing effort. So, by definition, our adaptive statistical framework tells us that price moves tend to occur within a certain range of frequency and volatility, I would add. And he notes that I trade with strategies and systems that are designed to make a professional living between -1R and +2R. And he uses daily bullets and capital preservation concepts to protect him from going overboard. And so when this kind of a trading plan meets a day like Thursday, there is nothing amazing about reaping a lot of R, because he knows in his heart and in his head that this kind of framework that uses combinations of low of the day and high of the day, and understanding what average range and range stat moves are like, that once in a while you're going to get that kind of a move. His question to me was, if the average range is a 0 on the standard deviation z-score, then an average range ±1 should occur 32% of the time. And so does that mean range stats should occur around that often? And no, not really. And let me explain why. All right, so let's take a look at the concept behind the range stat. And one of the things that we do with the frog box is we look back 30 days, and we're looking for the from the high of the day to the low of the day, and we're looking at the range, and we do that 30 times. And then one of the things we'll do is find the average, which is this red line here, the average range. And then we're going to find the standard deviation, the SD, of all those ranges, and then we're going to put plus or -1, and that's going to give us this blue box. So when we looked at those last 30 days of range, we had some small days, we had some slightly larger days, we had an average day like this one, we had some that were exceptional. The way the standard deviation is computed, roughly about 1/3 of the data fits inside this square, between average and ±1, and then about 1/3 fits inside average to -1, so 1/3 and 1/3, that's 2/3 of the data, and then about 1/6 of the data is between +1 and beyond, and 1/6 of the data is from average -1 down to the minimum, which could be 0. So you get a distribution that kind of looks like this. You get something like a normalish looking distribution with lots of values in here, and then thinner tails and thinner tails. And so we define average plus 1 standard deviation as a range stat move. So a range stat move is something that goes from 0 all the way up through an average plus 1 standard deviation. That's the size of the maximum reasonable intraday move. We can't expect it to go beyond that. And so only 1 out of 6 times will a daily range go beyond a range stat. So we use that as our intraday reasonable target, and then if it moves that far and starts to fail, we have reason to believe it's one of those 5 out of 6 days that are less than a range stat. We're aware of the fact that it might be one of those 1 out of 6 days that occurs and goes beyond, and you get these runaway large range days. These large runaway days tend to be very directional. If it's not directional, what you end up is a big move in one direction and then a big move in the other direction that ends up about where it started. That's actually better because now you have 2 chances to get these large intraday trending moves. Now, we don't count on today being that kind of a day. We make our living professionally between -1R and +2R, and we calibrate our expectations accordingly. But we're always aware of where the range stat move is, and Thursday's an example from Charles's discussion here of what can happen in these kinds of systems when you engineer them properly. You get an out of proportion gain. You just didn't know was going to happen that day because they all look the same when they're leaving the station, and you paid attention to minding your business between -1 and +2, and then you were happily surprised into this large kind of move, and it was your skill in doing things routinely that made you available for the large opportunity. You weren't predicting it was that kind of day, but you were treating the trade with respect and managing your stops and entries carefully, and then when you do get a runaway day, you can have an 11R day in which 11R was maybe half of what he should have gotten. You get a couple of those once a week, couple times, 3 times a month, and it's amazing what that will do to your performance. And then, because it feels amazing, you have to go through this amazing battle drill so that you can remember, oh yeah, it wasn't me being right and predicting, it was me being prepared and being an honest craftsman, paying attention to the things that I do, and then letting the market decide if it wants to reward me. That's why we do the amazing battle drill, so that we don't think that every day has to be like that and push to make it happen every day. The way you make it happen on the day that it happens is that you structure your trades in the proper way, you manage your risk, and when it gets up around 2R, if it doesn't fail, it just blasts through there, your second position is in, and off it goes, and then you're managing the trade in the proper way. It's the opposite of prediction. It is preparation. You prepare instead of predicting, and you manage your risk meantime. That's the importance of the amazing battle drill, to keep ourselves grounded and to make sure that we do our due diligence so that we can make our living here on moves that are less than a range stat, because we want to be profitable and professional on the days when we don't have a range stat move. We're not relying on the range stat and beyond move to pay us off. We're looking at that as icing on the cake, as the big payoff for doing our due diligence and preparation. That's the point. So now to just correct Charles's insight or his question, the a range stat and beyond move should only occur about 1 out of 6 times. So back to his discussion now. One of the first things a trader comes across in the fundamental literature is he must play his game, know your edge, stay true to it, take what the market offers him that day. Mark Douglas says in the beginning of Trading in the Zone and in the Disciplined Trader, even if you were to know for a fact what the results of your next 30 trades would be, you still wouldn't know the distribution or the sequence. So that's why you got to be prepared on each and every trade. And that's why Charles says, I want to build a lasting track record of greater than 0.15R over 30, 60, 90, 150, and 300 rolling trade samples. And that way he will have a system quality number and confidence in the next batch of trades are going to grow approximately according to that same growth profile. and then he can be more at peace with the individual sequence and distributions of wins and losses. He's not allowed to be surprised by a handful of targets doing things that are statistically normal. And that's a really important point. A day like this that goes beyond the range stat, by one definition, is statistically abnormal because it only happens 1 out of 6 days. But it's statistically normal in the sense that if you look at 30 days, you have a reason to believe that you're going to see 5 or 6 of those kinds of days somewhere in that 30-day, that 30 days is 6 5-day trading weeks. So you're going to get 3 or 4 of those in that 30-day period, maybe 5 of those in a 30-day period. And that, to not get those would be statistically abnormal. So depending on what your time frame of reference is, you can see the challenge, but also the opportunity of thinking statistically. Keep this in mind. This is absolutely essential for keeping yourself grounded and approaching your work like a craftsman. Very important lesson. Well done to Charles on his amazing battle drill. That's what it looks like. All right, we're just going to take a quick stroll through the chat room from Friday, which was the day after that exceptional day on Thursday, to see how we're doing. Some emotional encouragement from Sonal. A reminder that the owl is not only our totem animal for acceptance, understanding, and wisdom, but he's also a stalker, a hunter. That face of the owl is all business. That's my latest gift to myself as a visual reminder on my trading desk of what I need to be. He definitely means business. Yasik also did an amazing feelings exercise. Yasik had a great week last week also. He's strung together a number of weeks in a row, and I feel like he's reaching a tipping point. I want to make sure that we acknowledge that and are prepared for more success and to get back to equilibrium before our very success gets us out of whack. A sample of Gil's daily trading script, doing a great job there. Ashe and Charles putting their scripts in. You can stop this tape anytime, of course, and look at that stuff, or go into the chat room. Ashe reminding of certain moments that may provide some spike behavior in price intraday. Ashe, I can tell you from a distance, looking on his question here was, this isn't the beginning of an owl pattern coming this way. Should he take that pattern even though XME, metals and mining, has been an exceptional one? Yes. Ashe's morning, an hour into the session, 8 trades, 4.2 are trading VIX and XME. This is James doing a hybrid frog and an owl. The hybrid frog move is from the green dot to the red dot. The owl forms, he's short, cashes, well done. I can see from a distance that that's working. Another one on the hybrid frog. Here was the open, there's the move down. It didn't trigger, there's the move up. He's long, he captures his 1R. There's the 6 points of the owl, and he's short, cashes, perfect. This is almost an owl, but not quite because the 30 hasn't rolled up, but somewhere in here he might get long or not. No hurry, no worry. Here's a hybrid frog in win, WIN. Open, he's long. There's an owl. Oh, there's a pocket trade on the long side, a low, a higher low. Nice. EWZ, here's an owl, the unambiguous move up. There is the RLCO outside the river. RL10 crosses the dragon here. The 30 has rolled over. The dragon is sloping down. Short. Cash. This is James. Best morning ever with 7.6 R total. Professional grade, due diligence. He's starting to add the high. What he has now done is, last couple weeks, is chaining together the hybrid frogs that he has been working, and now looking to add the owl pattern as the next link in the chain. because when a hybrid frog is successful, by definition, you have an unambiguous move in one direction, which is condition 1 for the owl. And so now we're looking and learning how to chain that together. Ashe with long and cash, pocket, cash, short, cover, tries long, cashes, and now we're into the chop of the day. 2.2. These are all available in the chat room. You can get in there, click those links, and expand and read through the trade logic. It's an education. Very well done. Notice the excursion, the depth of this excursion away from the VWAP. When you see those in the middle of the day and you get this sideways quiet channel, 3 opportunities to fail further and it doesn't, and 3 humps of the dragon in the RL10 in here, and then the Z pinch. Quite often that's that VWAP magnet trade that we saw with Gills earlier. Ashe makes a very nice linkage between the owl pattern as a trading pattern and tracking his emotional state. That when he has had a series of successful trades and it's starting to roll over and they're not coming as easily, it may be time to reset, get back to the zero state, and approach the market without a directional bias and just enjoy the fact that you lock those in and could get back to the zero state. That's what his narrative is in here. Definitely worth a read. Here's one from Gil. Long, cash, long, and it doesn't work, so he cashes that one. And now he's looking for a pocket re-entry after a sideways quiet channel. Well done. Normally he'd be chasing in here. He's using impulse control and trading strictly according to his script as a way to discipline his inner chimp, still acknowledging those moves so that he can add them to his R&D plan, but doing a much better job staying true to his trading plan. Here's one in the VIX where he waited for that owl, gets the entry with a stop, cash, re-enter. That's what I like. The re-entry, cash right at the edge. Well done. And some I came in a little bit later and added some answers to specific questions. We were talking about the groove, and so the power of music to help us know it when we're in it. You've seen earlier from the my discussion about the condition of the market. I'm trying to just share my belief with evidence of why I think this long run may be done. And then we've seen some of these charts already. The wrap-ups near the end of the day. Pocket trade from this was the pocket trade from Gil back to the VWAP magnet. Well done. Ashe stats and so forth. So that's what a day in the chat room looks like. Good shared experiences. People taking charge of their own trading practice, gathering the evidence, making their decisions, asking for feedback from different perspectives, emotional support. Well done. That leads me to that, the insights from my mentor that we're starting to fire on all cylinders here and applying power to the wheels. This thing is starting to gather some good momentum. So well done to the gang in the chat room. Very proud of the effort. Keep it up. It's not amazing. It's what we expect to have happen. So Ken Law from Tortoise Capital with the coaching session and the daily debriefing a little bit longer this time with some additional insights. So take good care. We'll see you in the chat room.